I imagine my great-grandfather, Fred Ehrlich, rolling the warm tea over and over again as the creamy white liquid begins to fill the metal bucket. In 1916, Fred bought 80 acres of land from Henry Jecklin, who was a neighbor to the family farm. I only know of the stories that have been passed down generation to generation as the farm has been passed down. Filling in the details, I make up the stories in my head as if I were walking in the shadows of my great-grandfather all those years ago. He originally worked for Clower Manufacturing. After he left there, he started delivering milk from his 3 cows with a coaster wagon. He delivered it to the north end of Dubuque. Milk sold for 5 cents a quart. He gave free milk to parents with small babies when they couldn't afford it. Something unique I learned about Fred was that one day while he was delivering milk, a lady came up to him and asked for some milk for her son, who was very sick and needed it. Since Fred was running short for his regular customers, he couldn't give her any. Somehow, he found extra for her and gave it to her. Many years later, Fred gave a professor a ride to Waller. That professor turned out to be the child he gave the milk to. Around 4000 BC, cattle were domesticated and were milked by European farmers. Farmers inhabited the land and had been using cattle as a food source since they arrived. Later, this milk was turned into cheese and butter, two delicacies that we still cherish today. Immigrants brought cattle from Europe to America in the early 1600s for meat and dairy products. Although there are 7 dairy breeds, most were not identified until the late 1800s. The Meering milking machine was one of the first milking machines that was widely used among many farmers in the 1890s. This is a foot-powered machine that was created to increase speed and sanitation while milking cows. Meering milking machine has hoses that attach to the teats of a cow, and when the foot treadle is rocked back and forth, it creates a suction to move the milk from the cow to the bucket. This was not necessarily the safest for the cattle. Around the 1900s, the pulsator was invented, leading to successful bucket milkers that are still used today. My grandfather, Paul Ehrlich, inherited the farm from his father Fred in 1965 after living with his wife Bernice Nauman for 5 years upstairs. Growing up, Paul remembered milking 30 cows by hand and chilling the milk in a water tank. In 1959, the family farm finally added a milk house with a bulk tank, a large metal tank that chilled and agitated the milk to prevent curdling. On the 50th anniversary of Fred's marriage, 1975, was the first time the automatic milkers, the machines to extract milk from the cows, was used to milk roughly 45 cows, a barn full. Looking back now, I wish I would have been more eager to hear the stories of my family growing up and how the family farm has changed over the years. Today, the farm is still there over 100 years later. Many things have changed, although it is not the same. Pretty vacant now, there are a few animals that roam the pastures, and soon it'll all just be the memories that each of us hold. From both my grandparents and Rhonda Hafel, owner of Breezy Ridge Dairy in Epworth, Iowa, I learned that many family farms that began in the early 1900s tended to have a 15 or 20 cow stanchion barn. Cows come in and have a chain hooked to their collar. They also had bucket milkers where they would go cow to cow and attach the milker to begin extracting the milk. After each cow, sometimes 2 cows, the bucket would be carried to the bulk tank to be chilled. Hafel remembers how differently her family milked as she was growing up compared to how they milk now on her farm with her husband Mark and daughter Rachel. In 1994, Mark and Rhonda moved from their farm by the Dubuque Regional Airport and built Breezy Ridge Dairy, a 160-acre plot that quickly became their forever home in Epworth. Here, they upgraded their milking ways to have a 12-cow parlor, 6 cows on each side. They milk roughly 180 cows twice a day. Here, our milking process, like many other farmers, begins with milk bringing the cows into the barn where they will line up to be milked. Each cow is tagged whether it has a name or number on it. They are specific down to their date of birth, parents, and registration number that belongs to them. Every cow walks through a door until they reach the gate that holds them until released to eat post-milking. Once in the parlor, I go through and dip each cow with hydrogen peroxide, a pre-dip, then dry with a towel to remove dirt, manure, other materials that may be present. Following this, I attach the milker, which is made of vacuum hoses that gently pull the milk from the cows into a jar. After milking, I go through and dip with Dermacept, a post-dip. Once the entire side of the parlor is done milking, we release the cows into the freestall barn where they are housed overnight to eat and relax before milking the next morning. Each jar of milk is either put into the bulk tank through the pipeline, open to fill calf or lamb bottles, or put into a bucket for pigs and cats. Although this is the way Hafels milk their 180 cows twice a day, Iowa holds many different setups for milking cows. In Dubuque County alone, each farm holds its own unique setup that most have been doing for years. Klosterman's in Dyersville milk about 110 using a double 8-swing parlor. Calls and Farley have the same setup but with 10 cows. Hammerins and Cheryl use a parebone to milk 160 cows. Brumeyer's also Cheryl milk 450 cows on a carousel. Hafler's of New Vienna added robots to their farm, and Balls of Asbury currently use a double 6 herringbone parlor but are transitioning to the use of robots. I've had experience with all of these and have witnessed firsthand how each setup works, but I'm continually drawn to the parlor on Hafel's Dairy Farm where I work, or the old-fashioned tie-stall stanchion barn at the farm. In the beginning, horses provided power. Relief for the horses came when a tractor was purchased in 1945. The tractor wasn't very big, so horses were still needed. Kids worked as soon as they were able. Work was all day, every day, sunrise to sunset. The girls milked 20 to 25 cows by hand, while the boys pitched in with the field work. Hay was cut by a mower and picked up with a hay loader and wagon. A grapple was used to put hay in the barn. Stacking oats was another important chore. Oats had to be stacked up in bunches to dry. Everyone remembers their own special chores. My great aunt Ina remembers painting the buildings. I had to start on the far side of the building, or I'd be tempted not to finish. Now tractors have replaced horses. Milker pumps replaced the girls, and a discbine and baler replaced the mower, hay loader, and grapple. Manual labor is still a big part of farming, but this equipment really helps out. It is possible to see that farms have changed a great deal over the years. The Ehrlichs have followed suit with the trends. Just the same as many family farms, they have their own unique history and routines. It's possible that soon all of what happened there will be nothing more than memories. Sadly, by fall, the farm will be no more, a victim of progress and urban sprawl. The Ehrlichs have had a successful farm for over 100 years. Even if the farm is no longer, it will live on in our memories, pictures, and stories.